Hello, please come in, and thank you all for joining. Welcome to this installment of the Springboard sessions in the shape of this live webinar workshop organized by Georgia and Jane at Mind Mental Health Charity. My name is Liv, and I'll be your guide for today. Now, please type 1 in the chat or raise your hand if you've ever dreamt of being a superhero. When I was small, watching Transformers, Optimus Prime reminded me of my dad, always wise, calm, and kind. And I related more to Bumblebee, who was more, meh. What was that? Sorry, Bumblebee, don't mean to offend you. And when I asked my dad if superheroes were real, he answered, oh yes, you're surrounded by them. Sadly, most of them don't know that they are superheroes. Well, we're all here to change that. In this SUPERHEROICS Masterclass, where I'm going to share with you what I do successfully as a peer supporter within the criminal justice system and achieve positive results with my even most challenging clients. We're going to start by watching the video from my speech at last year's Peer Fest, as it describes and presents the backbone to today's topic. Then we'll have a 5-minute break and then do a deep dive.
Coming up next, we have the lovely Liv, and Liv has written an amazing book called The SUPERHEROICS. And Liv is here to share and celebrate with you all some information about rapid, positive, and life-changing results that she's observed in some very difficult cases, and how the message will resonate with different people, and she wants to share with you some of that information. Liv is also part of the peer support work in criminal justice liaison and diversion team at Together for Mental Wellbeing. So Liv is going to come up and share some of that information. So please put your hands together and make her feel welcome. Liv and SUPERHEROIC!
Thank you so much. Thank you. Imagine if you made a mistake and found yourself charged with a very serious crime, one which potentially carries a life sentence. What would you do? That was me not long ago. But first things first. Thank you all for being here, those in person and those tuning in online. And thank you to Mind for organizing this event. I'm very grateful to see all these faces, very friendly faces, especially that I was pretty nervous before I got off stage. I'm here. Oh my goodness, I'm overwhelmed and overjoyed that I'm actually standing here, as public speaking is one of my biggest fears. So it's a big box that gets ticked today. I'll admit, when I first read that I got this opportunity, all I saw was main stage, main stage, instant panic mode. What should I say? How should I act? Should I sit? Should I stand? Should I walk around? All these questions, but not, what do I wish to say and give to the audience? I had to think, and looking at the world today, it seems as if we need hope, more than ever. And then I remembered my dad's words, who said, hope is the greatest gift you can ever give to another person. Hope sparks faith. Faith sparks action. Action sparks change. A positive domino effect that begins with a kind word. I am Liv, a criminal justice peer supporter at a mental health charity organization called Together for Mental Wellbeing, which helps those with mental health issues who get in trouble with the law on their path to recovery. As a peer supporter, I help guide the individual and assist them through the situation, because I was in a similar position 4 years ago. In 2018, I suffered a psychotic breakdown and was charged with arson with intent to endanger life, which is how I found myself facing prison, potentially life. The times were tough. I felt like I was living in a nightmare, wanting to ended, as death seemed like the more bearable option, as I lost my mind, home, job, finances, reputation, and most of my friends. Only few stuck by me, and without whom I wouldn't be here today. Just before the breakdown, I finished writing a book called SUPERHEROICS Volume 1, a short textbook for mankind, which is an interactive philosophy book that simplifies the search for a happier, more contented, or fulfilling life. I had no idea when I was writing it that I'd actually be reading it for advice not long after. Although my mom played a part, it was inspired by my dad and his personal beliefs and teachings, which he raised me on. Being a historical figure and a household name within the world of art and philately, a World War II hero, as well as one of the most sold, if not the most sold, artists of all time, with billions of his images circulating worldwide. My dad knew how to live his life to the fullest, yet stayed away from fame, glitz and glamour, and focused on what truly mattered to him instead. My dad believed in behaving with love, joy, kindness, and humility towards other fellow human beings. He told me Earth was a training ground to test our resolve and character, and taught me about superheroes and supervillains, and our potential to become either. As I was growing up, I genuinely believed that superheroes and supervillains were real, and that it was like a well-known secret that everybody knows but nobody talks about. Who's your favorite superhero? Anyone? Favorite superhero? Oh, great! And supervillain? Favorite supervillain? Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, cool. Well, my superheroic journey began in primary school, post-communist Poland, when my classmate/friend runs up to me and she says, look, my mom bought me this dress in a charity shop yesterday. How does it look? I answer, old. She starts crying, tells the teacher, and the teacher comes over, a lot of finger wagging, I remember, and that was that. Then a while after, same girl, this time wearing a shirt with horizontal stripes, which was literally right after my dad just taught me that vertical stripes make a shape look narrow and horizontal make a shape look wider. So when she runs up to me, points at the shirt and says, my mom just got this for me, how do I look? I answer, wide. She starts crying. Yet again the teacher comes over, this time really mad. Who raised you? You're such a bad person. I got a lot of homework as punishment and was sent home, completely clueless about what happened. I mean, she asked the question, I answered, I don't know. But as the time went by, one thing I couldn't kind of move on from was that you're such a bad person. I thought, I don't want to be bad. So one day I go to the kitchen where my mom's doing the dishes, and I'm like, Mom, yeah, I want to be a good person. How do I do that? She stops what she's doing, looks around, and then goes, I know. Be like Jesus. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. What does that mean? How do I do that? Where do I start? None the wiser. Dad? Yep. Mom said that in order to be a good person, I should be like Jesus. Well, yeah, I mean, Jesus sounds like a prime example of what a good person ought to be. Yeah, but I can't raise the dead, turn water into wine, do any miracles, or be the Messiah, so what do I do? And he says, oh, hold on a second. You know, it's the incorruptible, selfless, loving, and always forgiving character of Jesus that we should strive to be more like. As for miracles, well, what is a miracle? I repeat something I read somewhere. Oh, it's a highly unlikely event occurring in nature. And he goes, yeah, okay, but according to whom? A human? Humans don't know nature well enough yet in order to make such a bold and frankly arrogant statement as that. And lastly, who is a Messiah? Oh, I don't know, a helper, a liberator. Okay, well, the next time somebody needs help and you can help them, do it. Liberate them of that problem, and there you go, you're a Messiah. Oh, so what do I do? Be kind, friendly, and helpful. To everyone? Even people I don't know? Well, yeah, just because you don't know someone doesn't make them any lesser of a person. So ever since, I've tried to live my life like a good person, one that he'd be proud of, and yet I still ended up messing everything up and facing prison. Before my trial went to court, a forensic psychiatrist evaluating my mental health, asked if he could read the book. Surprised by what he read, saying that, unlike other psychotic individuals, this actually makes sense. He asked if he could use some of the ideas on his patients. The trial verdict was not guilty by reason of insanity, and I was diagnosed with a bipolar disorder, anxiety, depression, and more. After the trial, as I was acquitted and free to go, well, you'd think that the bad chapter would end and then a new, happier one would begin, right? Not so fast. The night after the trial, I went to sleep thinking, yay, all is well. The next morning, I woke up thinking, yay, all is well. Then, after a few hours, I was at the supermarket doing my first official grocery shopping as a free woman, as I thought I was going to prison, so I had no food, when my friend phoned me and said, hey, have you Googled yourself today? Oh, no, you haven't, of course not. Well, there is a new article about you, but this one is worse. A Quartz News-related blog, which previously had written a blurb about my case, this time wrote a longer piece, very unflattering, clickbait headline, photo of me, even the street name where I lived. They made me sound like a total maniac, wrote that the trial continued, and completely ruined my chances at being able to start over, move on, get a better job, and yeah, be happier. Yet again, thoughts turned darker, and I was thinking, well, what's the point? Wouldn't it just be easier to, I don't know, self-delete? But according to my dad and the book, superheroes never give up and superheroes don't harm. So with the help of the few friends I did have left, the right medication and my writing, I've overcome those dreadful conditions. And today I'm very, very pleased to be sharing the book with you. If you feel lost, lonely, vulnerable, or you know someone like that, then this book is for you. As a peer supporter, I've used it, read it, and shared it to my clients with positive, rapid results observed even in repeat offenders. One such case would be a client of mine, a middle-aged man, in and out of prison since teens, when his daughter got assaulted, and he found out that the police wasn't going to do anything about it because A, she survived, and B, they had more pressing issues. My client decided to take matters into his own hands. He did some digging, found out who the assailant was, and where and when he worked. He grabbed a hammer, hid it under his jacket, and went to the shop where he saw through the window the assailant kneeling and restocking the bottom shelf. He walked into the shop, stood behind him, looked at the back of his head, reached for the hammer, and in that moment he remembered a piece in the book that said superheroes win and supervillains lose, and how in any superhero and fairy tale story ever told, if you want your happily ever after, you need to act in accordance with the laws of peace, like a superhero, not war like a supervillain. So he thought to himself, I want to be a superhero, and decided to peacefully walk out of the shop. Imagine the strength of the character. There is a person that hurt your child, and yet you still walk out peacefully. And not only that he hasn't been back since, he left karma to the higher powers, but he also hasn't reoffended at all, and is only focused on building happier memories and on his family. Another example would be a suicidal insomniac whose wife wanted to leave him because he kept arguing all the time. So the first time I ever spoke to my client, he said to me, I'm going to do this, I'm going to end my life, I've tried everything and there's absolutely nothing you can do or say to change my mind. But we had an hour, so we ended up talking. And when the time was up, we both agreed that he hadn't, in fact, tried everything because he hadn't tried superheroics. So he agreed to postpone death for an extra week, and he would apply superheroics onto every part of his life. And then, next time we would speak, he would give me the verdict, he would give me feedback. And fast forward till now, he's still here around us and married with his wife happily, and recently witnessed the birth of his grandchild. So it is possible to change your life. The reason why the book has proven successful in my role as a peer supporter especially amongst the post-psychotic individuals trying to rebuild their lives from the bottom up, from the ground up, after whatever damage the psychosis left behind. What the book does is that it clearly divides everything into two piles: yes, no, good, bad, right, wrong, peace, war, love, hate, etc., etc., and completely eliminates the so-called gray area, which my dad said was a man-made place where people kept their excuses in. The thing about the normies, which we call the functionals, is that when the normies make a mistake, they can apologize, they can reflect on it, learn from it, and eventually move on. But when it comes to people like me or my clients, after you've done something so serious where sorry doesn't cut it, then there is no room for a mistake. Because if you make a mistake, you do end up in prison, you do end up losing custody over your children, or you do end up homeless. So the consequences are dire. And my immediate goals right here and now are A, to spread my dad's message far and wide to whoever needs to hear it. Like Churchill said, if you're going through hell, keep on going, don't give up now. And 2 is to help raise money in order to print out as many books as we can and donate them as an alternative resource to hospitals and prisons, where places where people often feel forgotten about and in desperate need of hope. How does it sound so far? Are you guys with me? Yeah? Thank you. Well, when I asked my dad who the most impressive person he's ever met was, I expected him to name some actor or a queen or a pop star. But instead, he said, during the war in my village, there was an old lady who was always positive. If we had no food, at least there was water. If somebody new was killed, at least we had each other. And he said that without her optimism, he wouldn't have made it, he wouldn't have kept on fighting for freedom, and he wouldn't have survived the war. When I asked him what was so special about that old lady, what was her superpower, he answered, in our darkest hour of need, when we had nothing left to live for, she gave us hope. So, where is hope? Well, I'm looking at it right here and now. Each one of us has a story that proves it is possible to overcome adversity. You've been a victim and a survivor, and now you're a warrior too. Yeah? Oh. Well, I mean it. I know that times are tough and that future might seem bleak, especially nowadays, but it doesn't have to be. Because positive change, just like negative, can happen fast if we keep the faith in the good alive and keep acting accordingly. Imagine if I'd given up before the trial, I never would have been acquitted, or if I'd ended things after the article came out. That would have been my legacy. That's what I would be known for. The daughter of so-and-so that lost her marbles. But instead, in peer support, I found my calling. I've never felt more useful in my life. And thanks to Mind for giving me this platform, I am finally, for the first time, able to tell my story with the hope it'll help someone out there that has found themselves in a tough spot. My dad always said, one day will all be nothing but a story. Make sure yours is an uplifting one. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, absolutely amazing. If you would like to pick up one of Liv's books,
yes.
Where are they going to be available today?
Oh yes, so if you'd like to know more info about how to donate or to get a free copy of the book, go to superheroicsofficial.com. That's superheroicsofficial.com, or come see me after this.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. One more time for Liv. Yes. Some absolutely amazing information.
Welcome back to the Superheroics Masterclass. Let's dive right in. To recap, a couple of points from the speech, other than we're all success stories in our own ways. In superheroics, there is no such thing as a gray area. Every thought, feeling, word, and action belongs in either one of two piles: superhero, supervillain, good, bad, right, wrong, just, unjust, love, hate, peace, war, freedom, oppression. And every superhero cadet keeps that or tries to keep it in mind at all times and act accordingly, wanting to increase their superhero pile, especially on the beginning of their superheroic journey. End goal, we want a proactive, not a reactive mindset. My dad was mainly known for stamp and banknote engraving, and he said that what drew him to engraving, apart from wanting art to be for everyone and stamps being a good way to achieve that as they go all over the world, that what drew him in was the no room for a mistake policy. Engraving means etching, cutting, making an incision in the form of dots and lines, together creating an image in the surface of a metal/steel plate with a sharp tool called a burren. So if you make a mistake and etch too much or too deep, you have to start over. He compared it to climbing a mountain without protective gear, having to use your precision at all times and every step, not letting your guard down. And he said life worked the same way, that applying the no room for a mistake mindset in his everyday life had saved him many times from making silly decisions. Not always, but often. If a mistake occurs, he added, then we need to learn from it so we don't do it again. Unlike many people in our society who have the nothing matters mindset in life, my dad had the exact opposite, everything matters outlook. Each deed counted as a +1 or a -1, depending on its value. And he taught it to me from an early age, telling me superheroics only works when applied correctly and completely. No exceptions, same rules for all of us. I remember age 10 in Stockholm. I was going home with my dad after his work. We took the escalator up from the tube, then stopped to call the elevator to get us to the ground level. We didn't know there was someone walking right behind us. So when we stopped abruptly, a homeless-looking man bumped into us, angry pushed us away, yelled "a-holes," and started walking away to another exit. I looked at my dad appalled, but he said, "No, don't judge him. What do you see? Does he look well? Is he happy?" I nodded no. The man seemed drunk, and it was only afternoon. His clothes were dirty, his hair messy. My dad said, "This is not a man calling us a-holes. He doesn't even know us, so don't take it personally. This is someone in need of help." He then told me to wait, went after the man, stopped him. They started talking. My dad handed him some cash, then wrote something and handed him the note. The man looked totally startled, smiled, unexpectedly gave my dad a hug. They said bye, and my dad came back to me. "What was that about?" I said, confused. "Oh, I just asked him if he's looking for a job by any chance," to which he answered desperately, "Great timing, because the restaurant owner I know is looking for staff." So I gave him my mate's number and told the man to call him tomorrow. I was like, whoa, amazed at how in a matter of seconds, my dad turned an angry man into a smiley one. "How'd you do it?" I asked. "Magic?" "No, just compassion." I got embarrassed at how quickly I was ready to judge the man, to kick him when he was down. And why? Because he was rude? My dad then explained that mostly we can control the outcome of our interactions with others. Well, at least we can control our share. And the outcome is connected to and correlates with our actions. He said, all life is priceless, and I should always try and help where I can. No pride or ego present. Turned out the angry/smiley man actually ended up working at that restaurant for a year or so until he got himself back on track. That's when I started thinking, wait a second. My dad's the real life superhero, and I want to be one too. So, who is a superhero? In short, it's someone who does good deeds, regardless of what's happening in their life. In superheroics, it's the nature of the person, not the superficial stuff that counts. So how do we become a superhero? My dad's answer: actively work on the content of your character and the quality of your deeds so that your inner superhero ratio is bigger than your supervillain one. In other words, you're a baddie, you'll end up miserable. You're a goodie, good things will come. Like every fairy tale and superhero story ever told tries to teach us that this life journey isn't without its trials and tribulations for a valid reason, in order to teach us, make us grow, and help us reach our full potential, because a smooth sea hasn't made a skillful sailor. In the chat, can you please type in your favorite superhero and a word or two that describe them? You don't have to think about it too much, just let me know what you've got. And do you think, question for each of you, do you think you could become a superhero like the one you've just mentioned? What I'm going to do next is I'll say 10 adjectives describing all types of heroic characters. And if you could, in your notes, on your phone, computer, piece of paper, even your fingers, please count a point for each adjective I say that describes you. Why? In order to determine and count your superhero score. 10 out of 10 being the highest. Good, honest, brave, loving, incorruptible, selfless, generous, authentic, humble, open-minded. Please count your current superhero score. So, for example, if you take 5 adjectives, that will count as 5 out of 10 pro team superhero. The result is just for you, by the way. Right. So after my breakdown, things were tough. I'm not gonna lie. It was shit. Needing help and looking for it in who I thought were my friends, I was either ignored, deleted, or blocked, just like that. Homeless, with not many positions left after the fire, I jumped from sofa to sofa, stayed a few weeks here and a few there, until my friends, a married couple and their then 3 kids, now 4, plus a cat, until they let me live in their attic throughout the court hearings and after the trial to find my feet again. To this day, they don't realize how they literally saved me by treating me like a human being in my most difficult times and giving me a reason to keep going, like my dad did with the homeless man in need. On days when I had nobody to talk to, the family was always there, seeing me not as a monster, like many, including myself, thought of me, but as a person who matters. One evening, the mom was going to read a bedtime story to their youngest, and to let my mind rest from worrying all the time, I thought I'd join. The chosen story that evening was called The Selfish Crocodile by Faustin Charles and Michael Terry. Ever heard of it or read it before? Spoiler alert coming up. In the forest, in the river, lived a crocodile who wasn't nice and didn't let any other animals either drink the water or bathe in it. So all the animals stayed away, afraid of the crocodile. One day, the animals were woken up by a loud groaning sound, and although at first they thought the crocodile caught something, later they saw it was the crocodile making these noises and crying. The animals kept looking at the crocodile, wondering amongst each other what was wrong, but none dared to come closer or help. Suddenly, a mouse appeared, so that one of the crocodile's teeth was causing it great pain. So the mouse ran towards the crocodile, bravely jumped into its mouth, pulled out the tooth, and jumped back to the forest floor. The crocodile instantly stopped howling. It felt no more pain. The crocodile and the mouse became best friends, and all the other animals were welcome to drink and play in the river. The end. When listening to this story for the first time, I remember thinking, my dad would have done what that mouse did, and I really wanted to be that mouse too. That's roughly when I started my journey as a peer supporter. I had multiple clients, lonely, forgotten, judged, shunned by their families. Nobody cared for them or was there to help them in their pain, like the crocodile in the story. Then it dawned on me. That mouse is a peer supporter. No judgment, no fear, just the will to help others. In my role as a peer supporter, I've observed multiple similarities between my clients and what they have in common, despite their age, gender, culture, background, or success level. Most of them, due to their severe traumas and difficult circumstances, feel hopeless, useless, invisible, unnoticed, ignored. And because they feel like they don't count or matter, they also don't realize they can cause pain to others too, as what's inside flows out of us, whether consciously or not. That includes hurting those we love as well as hurting ourselves. Being a supervillain doesn't necessarily mean killing millions of people. Who is a supervillain? On a storyline level, a supervillain is a once a goodie turned baddie character, a foe with an unhappy life story, as well as having a deep connection to the superhero, their direct opposite. When a superhero comes across any situation, they remain on the path of good, no matter how hard it is for them. A supervillain doesn't. Due to their pain, heartbreak, or a traumatic event, a supervillain ends up doing bad things and hurting themselves and others instead. Next, I've prepared 10 adjectives describing the villainous types. Same deal as last time. Please add a point for each word that, even if only sometimes, describes you. Controlling, greedy, jealous, hurtful, vengeful, angry, selfish, oppressive, mean, resentful. This exercise isn't only for counting the supervillain score, unless you want to, but it's more to show us and remind us that each of us, every single one, has a supervillain within, mainly because someone in our lives has somehow let us down. So we then act like supervillains in return, some more than others. In superheroics, the main difference between a superhero and a supervillain is their reaction to pain. A superhero does good deeds and helps others, even if they're suffering, which is selfless. A supervillain, because they're suffering, hurts others too, which is selfish. Justice. A superhero focuses on doing what's right. A supervillain focuses on being right. Success. A superhero defines success by what they do and makes things happen. A supervillain defines success by what they own and expects for things to happen. Love. A superhero says, I love you, I accept you and your ways. A supervillain says, love me, accept me and my ways. Time. A superhero is patient. A supervillain is impatient. And life. A superhero remains an optimist, sees good in others, even if they don't see good in themselves, is filled with gratitude and wants quality plus peace. A supervillain is a pessimist, sees bad in others, including those trying to help them, is filled with guilt and regret, and wants quantity plus war. Multiple clients of mine have been let down by the mental health care system, by the legal system, and other systems which are set up to supposedly help people. So they'd often act out of desperation to be noticed, to be heard. Throughout their lives, the peers I support have stopped believing in the good because even people like the legal or mental health care professionals who are meant to be on their side would disappoint them, mistreat them, mess things up, make mistakes. The stories I hear, oh, shush, one of my clients, his criminal barrister, didn't show up on the day of the trial. Some other dude appeared in his place. Can you imagine? Or another client calling me because a social worker came by his place and made fun of him for relapsing and having a drink, saying, "Look at you, you waste of space." And I'm just scratching the surface here. Observing the world, it's clear to see that the people are aching and there is an urgent need for compassion. I've been asked, how do you help the clients so fast? Or what is it you say to them that changes their behavior? What's your secret? I don't have one, but I know what it's like to be in pain or to be treated like a nobody. So I just devote my time to listening to someone else's story, being able to relate because I've been there too. Experience is crucial, especially in such a complex field as the human mind. Many professionals have learned about mental ill health from books only, and theoretical knowledge can only go so far. That's why peer supporters are vital within the mental health care system and in the successful recovery of those in need of our service. When I work with someone, I use the heroic methodology, because this is what superheroics is all about. The first step of the heroic methodology is to provide someone who is in the depths of anxiety and depression, stress, maybe even on the brink of a psychotic break or post-psychosis, is to give the person hope, because hope is the one thing that will give someone something to look forward to, because right now they have nothing to look forward to. Every day feels like a drag. The second step I do is show you how to expand your focus, because when you're in the heat of depression, that's the only thing you can focus on, that keeps you day in and night, where you don't sleep. It gives you restless nights. It makes you sad at work. People around you can feel it. I show you how to expand the focus so you can move beyond depression into other emotions, other ways to lighten your own load. Also, everything in life is structural. A building couldn't be put up if it didn't have the scaffolding. Think of me and the heroic methodology as a scaffolding to make sure that you're supported. So I give you a robust structure to make sure that you are supported in getting out of the negative emotion into a life full of purpose. What's more important than anything else, it's overcoming your unconscious beliefs, which is the next step, because they're holding you back. Whether you don't think you are good enough or worthy, whether you believe you're powerless or not, whether you believe you're capable of achieving certain things or not, all of those are unconscious beliefs that direct your life day in and day out. When you're going through the depths of all those, I help transform the negative emotion and convert it into your hope and your purpose. I then combine it with something special, and that is how to be intuitively inspired. The last thing we want to do is take direction from our irrational thoughts and emotions, because that's how we got into this situation we're in now. What we need is something different. And the only place we can get something different from is a higher version of ourselves, higher energy, different vibration, if you will. And I call that being intuitively inspired. And when you go through all of that, you get one thing, which is what I believe we all need in life, and that is clarity. Because once you're clear on your purpose, once you're clear on how your beliefs are controlling you, and once you're clear on what it is you're working towards, you gain a new level of emotion intelligence, and everything in life clicks into place. H for hope, E for expanding focus, R for robust structure, O for overcoming, in this case, unconscious beliefs, I for intuitive inspiration, and C for clarity. Seeing positive results over and over again. I'm doing this masterclass today mainly with the hope it'll benefit someone out there, but partially for my clients, wanting to be the voice of those who support me and cheer me on, and are counting on me to tell our stories with the hope they'll inspire others. In superheroics, your state of mind is paramount in either achieving success or failure, because whether you think you can or can't, you're right. You receive what you believe, and most of my clients, when they come to me, they don't believe in good, don't believe in happy ever after. And why should they? I lost my belief when I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life behind bars. Or when the article came out, I even shouted at God, angry that he was putting me through all this. But if I had a choice to go back pre-fire to my old mindset or go through what I'd gone through to land where I'm at now, I'd do it again. Experience and growth are uncomfortable, but they happen for a reason, to test your character and giving you a choice whether to act like a superhero or a supervillain. Once you come out the other end, it all makes sense, but you need to know how to navigate your mind there. And that's where many get disoriented, lose their minds, and often, sadly, end their lives. I know it gets tough, dark, and lonely, but I'm here to tell those who need to hear it that there is light at the end of the tunnel. One of my clients, a woman in her mid-20s, felt so hopeless that she'd often cut her wrists, sometimes swallow pills, and ended up in the A&E on a regular basis, sometimes multiple times a week, to the point that her forearms now look, in her words, very mutilated. They'd quickly stitch her up at the hospital, send her home, and she'd be back soon again. Having suffered multiple traumas when growing up, she saw no point to life whatsoever. And although she was in the mental health care system for years, a GP, a psychiatrist, psychologist, psychiatric nurse, counselor, coach, etc. And yet, unlike me, who had a great psychologist and legal team, she found nobody to speak to who actually understood her, who knew what she was talking about. She was so used to losing, to pain and disappointment, especially after being accidentally copied into a chain of emails between her GP and other people treating her. She saw them writing mean things about her and mocking her. So she was afraid of trying again or trusting anyone, and thought that maybe once she's dead, people will hopefully learn to treat others better. But I told her the truth, that if she wants her story told, she needs to make it through, to tell it herself. I asked her to trust me and told her we were building a castle of stone, not of sand. So she needed to give me some time. We started applying superheroics immediately. And not long ago, when I asked her how she was feeling, although normally she'd just answer suicidal, this time she didn't. When I asked her to tell me one good thing about right here and now, normally she'd say nothing. But that day she answered, the one good thing right here, right now, is that for the first time in ages, I'm not feeling suicidal. Remembering my dad quoting Mother Teresa, don't say no to war, say yes to peace, I asked her to reword her statement into a positive one. And she went, the one good thing right here and now is that for the first time in ages, I'm feeling optimistic about life. One of my proudest moments. She hasn't harmed herself since, goes regularly to the gym, better than me. She eats better and is now rebuilding herself faster than I've ever seen anyone take charge of their lives. It's like preparing her to become a super peer. Her goal is now to get herself to the state where she's ready to tell her story, as well as to serve others in pain like she was. And I'm honored to be a part of her journey. She's finally realizing that she needs to embody the best version of herself to get the best results, like a superhero cadet would. That includes being compassionate to everyone, including and especially those who aren't nice, including herself. Happy people don't hurt others, and those hardest to love need love the most. Lincoln said, I don't like that man. I must get to know him better. He had a point, because the truth is we all have a story that explains why, who, and where we are. We just need to listen to each other a bit better. Epictetus said we've got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. In conclusion, an idle mind is the devil's workshop as observed in people like me and my clients. So you need to be very careful about what you focus on. Also, if you look around you, you'll see that you are as good as our world gets, and each of us can become someone's superhero. You can be a shoulder for somebody to cry on, as now more than ever, the people need your help, understanding, and compassion. One of the last things my dad ever said to me was, remember to never be greedy and always forgive. Although to some it might seem naive, this mindset has made my life way easier than it could have been, especially in the difficult times, and made my role as a peer supporter straightforward, like the mouse in the selfish crocodile story. No fear, no judgment, just the will to help others. If any of this resonates with you, to find out more about superheroics, receive a free e-copy of the textbook, or get in touch with me, please go to superheroicsofficial.com. Also, this might be of interest to some. Together for Mental Wellbeing is currently looking for peer supporters. So if you or someone you know may be interested in becoming one, please spread the word and or contact our peer support coordinator, Christine Pearson, who is present here on this call today. Meanwhile, I'd like to thank you all so much for sticking to the end. I really appreciate it and wish you a happy rest of the day. And cut. Bye. Camel.